saying that we can vote people in and out. Personalities, okay? But my dear, what we need to do in this country is to establish a situation where even if it was the devil who should come and sit on top of us in Ghana, by virtue of certain procedures, certain practices, the devil cannot get away with doing whatever he wants. He would necessarily have to do what the people expect of him.
I'm just an ordinary citizen, like any other citizen of this country, with the same yearn, with the same crave that any ordinary man anywhere shares, the same aspirations, you know, to realize the creative potentials in any being.
Hello? Psst. You better shut up when I'm talking, okay? Hello, listen. I'm talking about planters, not diggers. But you've got corn in your left hand. Jesus Christ. Okay. Now those of you with the sacks better watch out and feed us, okay? The point is, as they dig the holes, you, the planters, put the seeds in their holes. All right? Every digger, make sure you've got a plant. It is only by collective effort that the nation's problems can be solved. There are still some people who would like the nation to go back to childhood. Such a person was the man from the Osu People's Defense Committee, most unfortunate, who got up to speak at the budget debate at Parliament House recently, and who said that everything was fine when the white man was here. And so we should bring him back to help us. This man, and others who think like him, longs for the dependency of childhood. But we are grown up, or should be. We are supposed to be old enough to realize that the nation is now paying the rest of the outstanding bill for those easier days, when so many of our resources were squandered. The right to defend your freedom is a must. Sure. And the means of having to do so is something you will have to acquire. Oh no. It's a long way off. We've lost a lot of time in having to democratize violence. Right from America to China to Russia. I mean, more fair, more like 10-year-old children can be. Maybe the democratization of violence. Whoever took control of the bullets, guns, was obviously going to dominate you. And that's the way it's been. That's the way it is in the third world.
If we can learn to be bold enough to restore the value of truth in our society, then we will have justice. Without truth, we cannot get justice. And that's why we're suffering. Truth is so important. Oh, Chief, when it comes to accusing me, don't forget, 8 generals, 3 former heads of state, painfully executed. I, Rawlings, will not turn around and commit the very crimes for which another man lost his life.
And when we won our freedom, some of our countries were led by some of the most noble nationalists, of our time. But at the same time, with the passage of time, some of them became treacherous and rather betrayed our aspirations. In effect, what I'm trying to say is that as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being westernized to the point where, as I sit here before you, when I wanted to even name my children African names, heroic names, I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church, or that character, back at home, said, no, I cannot. They'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names. I went through an argument with this priest, and I said, listen, I have a right to my identity. Don't take away my identity. Okay? I mean, Christianize me if you may, but don't westernize me. We end up with injustice, we end up with corruption, we end up with poverty, we end up with the worst possible things, we end up with the image. I don't have to tell you the image that you have in Africa. I don't have to tell you. Listen, when I was in office as an Air Force pilot, I went to school and trained in the cities. When I became an Air Force pilot, I had the opportunity to travel around the country. That's when I saw there is a big difference between those of us living in the cities and the mass people who feed us living in the rural areas. My brother, you listen to me carefully. The water they drink in those rural areas is such that the water you use to flush your toilet, the water we use to flush our toilet in the cities is much cleaner than the water they drink in the villages. No clinics, no hospitals, etc. No headache, no needles to even sew their clothes. That's when I began to see the parasitic relationship between our cities and this thing. I mean, I've seen too much injustice in my country when I decided enough was enough. When some of us began to decide that something has to be done about it. When we emerged into political office, you know something? Electricity used to be limited to only 27% of the country. In the shortest possible time, we were able to, with Italian assistance, we were able to extend electricity from 27 to almost 87% of the rest of the country. We were able to extend roads. The infrastructure was improved every part of the country. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, the energy now goes to every part of the village. Children can now go to school and can learn at night, so that my children living in the city will not have an advantage over that child in the village. My child has no superior, was not born with anything superior than that child in the village. But so long as that child in the village is denied and deprived of electricity to learn at night and good water, etc., my child in the city will always have the advantage over the ones in the rural areas. I've been to school where rural students were doing better with the passage of time than those of us in the cities. Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes, you know, these superpowers must learn to accommodate and to live and to accept patriotic leadership, patriotic citizens. Too often, they're happier with people who are not patriots. But you in Europe, excuse me, don't get angry, you never seem to know the role that some of your bad businessmen, you have good businessmen, and I respect them, but some of your bad businessmen are always doing bad things on our continent. And it's our people who suffer. This kind of thing must stop. Your governments must begin to wake up to help us, to help to police and to maintain the integrity of economic policies and economic practices in my country. Your country must help us to protect the judiciary in my country. Your country must help us to police and to monitor and to protect the political integrity in our continent.